Hey folks, John from Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. I know you guys see this big old bundle of stuff here and you wonder what's going on. Guys, you know, I get excited about certain videos when I'm making them. Some of them are just fun. This one, it's insanity. You know, check this out. Guys, if you have been with me since the beginning, you know this channel's a few years old now. And back in the old days, you saw me actually do the modification on this original Commodore VIC-20, which was kind of special to me because this was my original Commodore VIC-20. If you missed that, it was actually a two-part series. I'll go ahead and drop a link up here for you. Now, what was really strange about this is I've done a couple mods on this since then, and we will continue modifying this. But it was always my dream to actually continue to upgrade this to where we could run Windows 10 and make this a practical machine in today's era. Now, granted, with a Raspberry, you can run Linux OS, you can run Raspbian. You guys have seen all kinds of neat stuff I've done with them. But I wanted something that was a little more practical. Guys, you ain't going to believe this one. There's a company out there that is called MyRetroComputer.com. This is a Kickstarter company. They are brand new. And by the way, if you look around on YouTube, you're not going to find this anywhere except from the manufacturer himself. This is a Mini ITX case for modern day motherboards to run with a Commodore form factor. I am incredibly excited about this. Now, guys, I want to tell you something about this before we get into it. This is going to be a series for me because what I want to do is I want to change out motherboards and I want to constantly continue to evolve it to see what we can actually get into this thing because, you know, we're dealing with the height constraints. You can see them right here on the VIC-20, how thin that was. Well, what do you worry about? Heat. Heat is the killer of machines. So I'm looking for a couple different motherboard options to get that heat out of here. Now, the people over there at MyRetroComputer have actually thought about that, and in fact, they sent me an STL file to print a 3D printed duct fan for a specific board they were using. But I want to make this extensive. I want to use multiple boards on this thing. I want to rebuild it a couple times so that we can actually see what it does. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me clear off the desk. This is what we're going to use for this build, and then we'll be right back with you. Guys, I am so giddy about this. I haven't opened this box until you guys got to see it with me. I wanted to see this together. So let's go. We got Stumpy out here. Check this box out, guys. Now, I am being told that this is kind of their prototype. There's none of these out here yet, and that this is going to evolve as we go. And let me make sure we got Stumpy angled up here so you guys can get a good look at this. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous box, and even now, it's still, like I said, it's still in its infancy. All right, so let's open this up and see what we have got in here. So you guys know how I feel about Commodore. Anybody that's been around me, you've seen my Commodores on the wall. I've got 64s, I've got 16s, 128s. I've had every Commodore at one point or another in my life, and they all surround me here. That's what you're seeing. So, all right, here we go. Oh, this is so cool. I feel like I'm opening a brand new Commodore. Oh, guys, look at that. I got to let Stumpy see this. That looks like they got the color dead on, guys. Now, these guys are authorized by Commodore to build the cases and to actually use the name. So this is not some fly-by-night company that's 3D printing these. These guys are legit. Incidentally, I will drop links to all of their stuff down there, including the Kickstarter. And guys, if you're into something, you really want to be part of something special, jump in on that. You're not going to regret it. All right, so let's take a look at this. So we're going to go ahead and open up this box. Man, this is well packaged. All right, let's start with the manual. Now, granted, the manual will evolve. At this point, it is just a couple one-sheets here. And they have got recommended cases, or excuse me, recommended motherboards and processors. Most of what they use is embedded. And I'm suspecting that's because of the height of the cooling fan. You got to be able to thin that down here. Other than that, in here, you've got different heat sinks that are available. Oh, these guys are telling you every single one that they have currently tested on this unit. We're actually going to use one that's not on this list, so they'll be able to add this one to their list. So that's really cool. All right, let's get to the meat and potatoes, guys. I cannot wait. So this is extremely well packaged in here. I cannot wait to see this. Let's put this board over here. I do not want to destroy that box because I want to keep it. All right, look at this, guys. Hopefully Stumpy's getting a good view of that. Now, I want to get this. Oh, that's a rubber band. I thought that was one of those strap things, but it's just a rubber band. All right, put that in here. Oh, guys, look at the quality on that. That is crazy cool. All right, let's get it out and see what it actually looks like in your hands. Oh, wow, guys, look at the, let's check that color. I have another Commodore 64 right here. Hang on a second. All right, so this is an original Commodore 64. This one's in rough shape, guys. This is not my wall unit up here. But if we put it side by side, you guys can see, and I'll put that by Stumpy, this one is a little, it's older, but the color is almost perfect. Oh, my little space bar came up there. Just push on. Probably in shipping. By the way, these came from Europe, which is really cool. Dude, those are switches. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. But the color is real close. And it looks like the form factor, let's compare it to the VIC-20, is a little bit, yeah, so see how that's actually a little bit bigger than the VIC-20, which means it is a Commodore 64. Let me get down this good one. Get rid of this trashy one. Hold on a minute. Okay, here's my good Commodore 64. Comparing them side by side, and you can see this case is a tiny bit larger than a Commodore 64. The other thing you'll notice on here is the function keys. Now, if Stumpy takes a look at this, on the original function, you had F1 through F8 right here on these buttons. On here, you've actually got a set of buttons that are internet, email, files, so hotkeys, along with a volume up and volume down. They did this intentionally, guys. If you're going to use this as a modern computer, we ran into this before. When I did the VIC-20, if you ran the Commodore emulator, you could actually go in and use it like a Commodore. If you ran something like Raspbian on it, it'd still run fine, but a lot of the keyboard shortcuts didn't match up. They were all there, but it was some funky combination. Like to get a backslash, you'd have to hit like the Commodore key and L or something. It was just really strange. And it looks like they're trying to alleviate some of that. Other than that, you can see that the height is just a tiny bit off, guys. It is really, really close. But once again, I'm pretty sure they needed that clearance. So, all right. Let's take a look at this. So on the top here, it looks like we've got our power button, and it is a soft switch. On the back, you can see it's got room for an I/O shield. It does have one fan in here, and we'll take a look at the voltage on that and what it's actually doing. On this side, we've got USB ports. That's actually really cool. I like that. They are USB 3.1. I'd like to see a Type-C or maybe two Type-Cs on there as well, but like I said, we're in early development. And on this side, guys, that is a slot. If that would fit an optical drive, that'd be fantastic. Honestly, though, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see an SD card reader with a slot, or excuse me, with a caddy that looks like a 3.5-inch floppy drive. I mean, if you're going to go out and make this thing awesome, make it awesome. That would be really cool. All right, so let's crack this open and take a look and see what we're going to need to build this. And it looks like on the bottom we've got 6 screws. So we've got the original 3 like the Commodore, and then we've got 3 more in the back. Now, the Commodore obviously didn't have that. It had the 3 and a hinge, and those broke a lot. So I'm kind of glad to see they went this route. All right, so let's open this up and see what we got. All right, guys, so one thing I want to show Stumpy here, if you do this, keep in mind that the back screws, and you can actually see this on my hand here, the back screws are a little bit longer than the front screws. So when you're doing this on the Commodore, the back 3 screws are going to be the longer ones, and the shorter ones are going to go up front. Dude, keep that in mind. Any of you guys that have ever done this and driven a screw up the top of your laptop or a case, you know how wonderful that is. So long screws in the back, short screws in the front. They're all the same length other than that. All right, so let's turn this over and see what we have got in this case. And it looks like it is, ooh, Oh, I was right, guys. Those are really nice switches on that. All right. You hear the clicky? I love that clicky sound. Okay, so we've got a USB 3.0 header here. This is a mount for a hard drive, which that's actually kind of cool. And let's see what else we've got going here. So we got our fan in there. It is a standard 12-volt fan, which will be driven off the motherboard. That is actually nice too. And we've got USB 3.1. Okay, so it's pretty basic in here, guys. I'm going to see if I can get Stumpy over here to get him a nice, clean view of this. The keyboard is a standard USB interface, so that is a regular old generic interface that will go into the motherboard. That actually is pretty cool, and I'm glad they did it that way. It'll make things a whole lot easier when we're installing this. And over here, we've got our LED lights along with the power switch. That's kind of cool, too. Pretty neat. All right, so let's move that aside. And got some cable ties and some mounts there for you. And boy, you guys can tell, I love it when you get an early unit because you can see how they've redesigned the holes and moved stuff around. That, to me, guys, is really, really cool. I mean, we are in the early phases of this, which is what makes it cool. So, all right, let me tell you what we're going to do. Let me show you what we're actually installing in this system. So what we're going to do is I wanted to test this for height. That's what I'm concerned with. So I went with I had a board sitting around here and I thought, you know what, this would be perfect for this. This is an ASRock J1900 ATX. Now I will put a link for this in the description down there, although I'm not 100% sure that these are still available. They're very, very, very solid boards though. They just work, which is what I'm looking for. But as you can see by looking at Stumpy, the RAM barely protrudes above anything else. So really it's a nice flat board. In fact, I believe your input output here are a little bit higher than the RAM itself. We're going to go with a Pico 24 watt or 24 volt power supply. Now I have there's a couple different versions of this. This is 150 watt, way more than we're going to need for this machine. They do say in the description that there are several of these that will not fit. So you have to stay under a certain height. That's because the Commodore slopes when it comes down to the front. So obviously everything up here is what's actually going to be contending with that. So the I/O shield will go back here and we'll take a look at this. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to mount this motherboard real quick and then we'll take a look and see what it looks like. Be right back. All right, guys, so here's the deal. I've got the motherboard mounted in here. By the way, guys, the screw holes lined up perfectly. So that is fantastic. I did notice one thing that I'm going to have to verify with him on, which is I do not see a port to bring the power connector out of the client. And I'm sure that they're probably going to end up building that into the back of the case here. At least that would be my option. But I don't see one unless you've got a motherboard that has the power supply built onto it that you could just come directly in for voltage. By the way, we are going to be testing one of those. But in the interim, we'll use our little notch over here and we'll just bring in our cables so we can test this thing out, make sure everything is good. The other thing I noticed is this appears to be a mounting bracket for a 3.5-inch drive or an optical drive if you had a thin one. Other than that, though, there's no real mounting in here to get our solid-state hard drive, which is what we'd want to run. Now, on the next motherboard, once again, we've got an M.2 drive on the board, and we'll be running a 1 terabyte solid-state on the side. But in this particular case, we're just going to run our 512, and we're going to put it right there to give you an idea. All right, so let me go ahead and get this cabled up. It's actually very simple to cable this, guys, but you do need to watch your cabling. Now, you guys have seen me cable before, so you know how I do things. But when you're doing this, these are very long. So make sure that you're planning your routes, and because you got to close all this up, and you don't want anything interfering with the heat on this. That is another big thing. Which, incidentally, I came up with another idea about that one we're going to try here in just 1 second. So be right back with you. All right, guys, so here's what we've got. I want to show you this. Now, I did run into a couple of very interesting things that I wanted you to know about. Number one, the USB 3.0 header that's on this thing. This comes directly off of the front of the motherboard. Now, on some of the motherboards you're going to see on their list, the USB header here that you can see actually comes off the center or the back of the board. That in itself is going to be a huge improvement because this, where that is, barely allows the system to close, but it does allow it to close without having to force it. I had to test that. You guys can see how I have got the cabling routed here and how everything is run so that everything is clear and it keeps the processor more or less clear from any kind of obstructions. We've got our drive actually Velcroed down right here until we get some sort of a mounting bracket, and I will be discussing that with them. And this is our power connection. Now, as Stumpy can see, I've just got that stubbed right here. All I have to do for right now, since we've got that gap, is just to run the cable in to plug it in right here to test it. I will probably 3D print a bracket right here that's got the plug in it so that I can screw this in properly, but that is something we're going to have to look at. I don't know where they had intended you actually plugging this in unless it was the 19-volt connector on the front of some of the motherboards, which once again, I do have one coming. So that'll be our next rebuild on this. We're going to rebuild this a couple times. So I had another kind of an epiphany. So this 12-volt fan is actually driving all of the cooling for the system right here. So it's pulling air in from the outside of the case, and it's cooling the processor. Now, you got all kinds of outlets here and stuff. So it occurred to me that we've got these little 5-volt fans that we use for the Raspberries. Now, you guys have seen these before. I've done a million different Raspberry videos. Well, the way these grooves are cut out, these fans fit exactly in the groove and snug into place like that. So what I did is I daisy chained 2 of them together, and I've got a header here. Using the other USB header on here, we can draw from the 5-volt and the ground and have a constant flow of air going across that processor. So we'll have cool air coming in from the outside. It'll be venting out everywhere else, and then we'll have a nice constant flow going right across the processor. Sounds like a pretty good idea, so I'm going to give it a shot. So what I'm going to do, guys, we are to the point now where this is ready to button up. That's how simple this was. If we had the fan ducting or we had to reroute things around, it might take a little longer on the next builds, but this board, it's almost like it was made for this case. I mean, it really is kind of blowing my mind. So, all right, let me go ahead. I'm going to put these fans in just so well, tell you what, let me show you what it's going to look like. I'm going to put one in here, and we're going to draw air this direction, so out this direction. So we're going to draw air out that way. We're going to draw air out that way. And I am going to secure these in place by going down that duct. And then over here, we're going to pull our 5-volt and our ground off of the unused USB. That's going to give us our airflow constantly across the processor to keep this cool inside this enclosed case. So also it's going to blow the air, hopefully, out this gap. The only thing coming out that gap is going to be this cable, because obviously that's where we're going to have to plug this in. So for the meantime, we'll just have to unplug and plug this in when we move it around. So, but there is a soft power switch on it, so you can turn it on and off without a problem. All right, let me go ahead. I'm going to button this thing up, get everything cabled in, and then we will start this together. I'm going to save you the load of windows on this, but I do want to show you something that you might get a kick out of. So here we go. And guys, look. A brand new built Commodore 64. Yeah, I have to say that's probably the best clean built Commodore 64 wait a minute. It's the only clean built Commodore 64 I've ever built. Guys, look at this. The I/O shielding on the back of this, the cooling fan. This is just an amazing piece of technology. And you guys can see what I did right there, and I'll show Stumpy this. This is the power cable right now. I'm going to 3D print a panel. There's probably something here that you can print to run that plug and just plug it directly into it. Or on the back here, you could add a plug right in here, and that's probably what I'm thinking too. But I'm going to ask them about that. Now, I do have another motherboard coming in that will be installed in here that actually has the power connector on the I/O shield. It's in the back. That'll be a whole lot easier and a whole lot cleaner, but we'll get to that one. All right, so let's plug this thing in. What do you guys think? I'm gonna turn Stumpy around here and face the screen so you guys can actually see this boot up. Here we go. All right, guys, so here we go. Now, one thing I did notice, and I want to let you know, as soon as you connect this to power, and this probably has more to do with this board than anything else, but as soon as you connect it to power, you are getting a green LED on the caps lock, all right? But the system does not come on. Now, as soon as you hit the soft power switch one time, you get a red light on the power switch, caps lock goes out, and now you are booting up. And guys, I'm going to back Stumpy up here so you guys can actually see, hopefully, everything. There we go. Because I want you to see what it boots into. You'll like this. What does that say? Oh, wait, Commodore 64? No, that ain't right. This is Windows, right? Can't possibly be a Commodore 64. Or can it? Yeah, wait for it. Wait for it. So I went with the solid state drive. The motherboard that we have coming in is actually an M.2. It should be presumably, well, not presumably, it will actually be quite a bit faster than this. Wait a minute. That looks like a Commodore 64. Yeah, all right. So it's a background, but I thought that was pretty awesome, guys. And I ran a couple of tests on the keyboard here just a second ago. Hang on a minute. And we'll go to Notepad. God, the way it feels so good. But all the keys are working. And guys, I mean, I could legit type on this thing. So I can't wait to give this a shot and actually test it out. I mean, check that out. Everything is working normally. And of course, oh, let's see. Let's check one more thing here. Now, one thing that they did do. Commodore, at the bottom here, had their cursor keys on two cursors, and then you would hold shift to switch between up and down or left and right. So if you just hit it like this, you go down, hold shift to go up, just like that. This one has a fully functioning 4 arrow keys right here for cursors, which is pretty nice. I was wondering if they were going to do that. I mean, you can get used to that, but it does take a little bit of time. So caps lock does actually work. So I'm not sure why that light stays on if it's powered up or excuse me, if it's not powered up, but it has power connected to it. But I don't think that's going to affect anything. And I do love this red light up here at the front here, guys. That's really cool. Check it out. So something that you don't see a whole lot often. So no Raspberry involved, right? Pretty cool. But I don't know about you guys, but I'd kind of like to see it browse the internet. So, by the way, what we're running on right now is a 16 gigabyte Celeron quad-core processor. It's awesome. And it's especially if you're just going to do this kind of stuff. So let's go over here. Let's go to, we'll check out YouTube and see what she looks like. I was so excited when I met these guys, and I actually have been talking back and forth with him on Facebook. Really cool dude, guys, so you really need to get to know him. But check that out. Now, I know that normally we do the, I think it's the Big Buck Bunny for 4K. So let's do that and see what this actually looks like here. This is the 60 FPS 4K. Get a little volume here, guys. And look how smooth that's running, guys. Off a Commodore 64. That's a win. I don't care who you are. Look at that. Pretty awesome, right? All right, guys. Well, let me wrap this up. I'll be right back with you, and I'll tell you what I think about this. Here we go. All right, guys. So what do I think of the Commodore 64 Mini ITX barebone case that isn't even on the market in full production yet? If you are a fan of the Commodore 64, particularly the form factor of it, you cannot go wrong with this. If you are a fan of nostalgia, but you want to actually have a practical use for it, you can't go wrong with it. It's fantastic. Now, you know, you've seen me do the Raspberry conversions and all that, but the truth is, no matter how powerful the Raspberry is, it will never do what this one is capable of doing now. And you could theoretically run a high-end Ryzen machine in this with the proper cooling and have a fantastic gaming machine. And by the way, we will. Mark my words, the next time we crack this open, we're running Fortnite on this thing or Warzone or something just to say we ran it on a Commodore 64. It's great. Guys, I'm going to drop links for these guys down in the description. Their Kickstarter is either up or it's coming up real soon. So if you want to get part, or you want to be a part of something that's going to kind of change everything, they have a whole bunch of designs on this. Be part of it. It's really cool. I'm going to be a part of it, but I'd love to see you guys out there too. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Stay safe out there. And if you're in the area down here in Fort Worth, come on by and see me. Bye-bye.